From Mustafar, this is the Rebel Scum Podcast. The tale of two galactic scoundrels talking into microphones about Star Wars. On today's show, an all-new Tell That to Conja Club. Are Snoke and Rey cut from the same cloth? What will Luke say to Rey? JAKKU, JAKKU, JAKKU. Plus, Never Tell Me the Odds, HOLO News, books and comics. An all-new top 5 selected by one of our viewers. Now, from Darth Vader's castle, making one of them Snoke, here are Brock and James. We don't like to get political on this show.
No.
But something of grave importance has come to Brock's attention over the past week.
Yeah.
So Brock, I think maybe before we get started, just let everybody know what this is and what it means to you.
Let me get on my soapbox. Okay. Ready? And go. Bring in the graphics. Hashtag bring back Teak.
Bring back Teak.
Now, I don't like to promote other podcasts because I'm selfish. Or not specifically podcasts, Star Wars shows. And I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Star Wars show on YouTube because it's probably the biggest, like between that and Jedi Council of the Star Wars show.
But there's a lot of big ones, but it's the official Star Wars one.
Right. So they had a similar to what we do, sort of like top 5 or your favorite. They had they put out a hashtag Star Wars best alien or favorite alien or whatever it was, and someone said, I forget who won, but someone said Teak from Battle of Endor, and the one host just rolled with it. So like, bring back Teak. So I am fully supporting this hashtag. Bring back Teak. We need to make a decision of what is going to be canon from those movies. And I suggest we bring back Teak.
Well, the Goraks are.
Sorry, yeah, exactly.
And they're canon, so why can't Teak be canon?
Why are they canon now?
I tweeted at Pablo Hidalgo, and he came back to me, and he said anything that George Lucas or Joe Johnston created for Endor is canon. So I guess neither one of them created Teak.
Okay, gotcha.
But for those that aren't familiar with Teak because they were born after the mid 80s,
yeah.
Who is Teak?
Oh, he's just a character on Endor. The Ewoks movies, there's 2. There's Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. Caravan of Courage is about how a family crash lands on Endor, and it's a parent and 2 children, Sindel and I forget what the older brother's name is. I'm sorry, I should have thought of this before we.
Sorry, I put you on the spot with that.
But
question, anyway.
They crash land and the kids get separated, so they're trying to find their parents, and of course they find the Ewoks. Oh, and the parents get kidnapped by.
Yes.
I don't think it's the Goraks in this one. It's hard. They keep changing the villains on Endor, so they have the children and the Ewoks go and save the parents. The second one, it opens on, they're still on Endor, but then the family are attacked by probably the Goraks in this one, and like the family's killed off except for Sindel.
But Sindel becomes Captain Phasma.
Yeah. Oh, I would be so in for that. But we did find a plot hole. She doesn't have a British accent.
That's not a plot hole because it's how she's raised, and she got raised by the First Order.
I guess.
And if you've seen it, they all have British accents.
In Battle of Endor, she meets Wilford Brimley because in his off times of narrating things and being diabetic, he's on Endor trying to get off. He just lives there, and his sidekick is Teak, which is this. I don't even know what kind of creature it is, but yeah, it runs really fast. It talks really jittery, and it just has amazing facial expressions for the costume.
So hashtag bring back Teak.
Bring back Teak. I want to make shirts for this, and I think I can make that happen.
You could probably buy it on StarWars.com.
I was looking it up. I didn't find a lot of Teak shirts, but I didn't look hard. So,
all right, let's move on to
bring back Teak
to the show, episode 31. Thank you all for watching and joining us and commenting and being part of everything with us. It's been a lot of fun. Before we get into the let's tell that to Conja Club.
Yeah.
Winter Star, a viewer Winter Star.
Yeah.
Wrote in a comment about at the end of The Force Awakens on Actu
planet.
on the green planet that Rey travels to at the end.
Ireland.
There are birds flying in the distance, and these are computer-generated birds.
Right.
And I watched it. They're definitely there. Could they be convoys? I believe Winter Star is under the impression that they are. I would be too. If they're going to be in the next one, and you're making these movies, I think they are forward-thinking enough to have visually put them in there. Because if they're going to be some kind of aspect in the next one, put them in this one to start.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we talked about that once, right? But then they were reporting there were like gremlin-type birds. And
but
the convoys that we've seen are more like owls,
and these
right?
birds are more black and white, which fits the description of what they
Oh, wait, and wasn't it supposed to be like they look like puffins since they're actual puffins on...
Yeah.
Which are flightless birds, so it's not... But like, they were like, hey, this island actually has puffins.
Okay.
So, sorry, what was your question? Do we think it is?
Well, it's kind of cool that, like, do you think that they would have that forward thinking? And also, this is a creature that is now, it's on Sabine's uniform. It's on her armor.
Yeah.
Because she thought it looked cool, which there might be more meaning behind that as well.
I can't remember the episode of the Rebels because you actually see them, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like, doesn't like Ezra is able to like force talk to them or something like that? Are they one of the creatures he can kind of communicate with? I can't remember. Do you like how prepared I am for this podcast? Let us know.
They're so prepared.
Yeah, I think it would be good to answer your question because it doesn't really do anything to the movie. It doesn't take away, but it's a nice little touch. I would think that when they're making these movies, they're like, okay, we need something here to like, I don't know, make this exciting in the background, or I don't know. And I bet they email someone that says, hey, what could we add that would, and they'll be like, oh, why don't you put this? Like I don't know if I'm like making it less magical, but I think that's what happens. Like,
it could be we need creatures on this island, and they go to and then the story group says, well, these are the creatures you're allowed to have on the island. But and that's what I think. I think if the convoys show up in The Last Jedi or a creature of that ilk, I think that's what it's going to be. They're going to be exactly how they are in The Force Awakens, but maybe we see them a little closer up.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
That's what I see.
I'm all for that. I mean, they've done it the other direction where you have a movie and you see something and then they put it in a expanded universe. Like
that's why we have a podcast, because they do that all the time.
Exactly. Like,
but thanks to Winter Star for bringing that to our attention, because that was cool. Fine. It was something neat to see. So if you haven't seen that part of The Force Awakens, fast forward. But you have to look for it. They're black and white. So just pay attention to what they are. Let's move on to Tell That to Conjure Club.
Tell That to Conjure Club.
What are you telling the Conjure Club? I think we'll tell the Conjure Club, but we think Luke is going to tell the Conjure Club. What will Luke Skywalker's first words to Rey be? This week or past week on Reddit, there was it exploded with what will Rey say, and there's a lot of funny ones in there. But this became a thing, and we talked about it briefly on Scavenger Scum. But Brock, what do you think Luke will say to Rey?
He's gonna say, "Cash me outside." How about that?
What? Was that English?
No, that's a thing from the internet.
Oh, I don't watch the internet.
We're on the internet right now.
But honestly, what do you think? What do you think Luke is going to? What do you think when he first sees her? He has that look in his eyes of this mysterious look in his eyes of, and in the book and in the novelization it says that he recognizes her. And on our Scavenger Scum, hosted by Aaron, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
Favorite Aaron.
She mentioned something where, what if Luke says to her, "I thought you were a myth," which which echoes what she says about Luke Skywalker.
I
he
feel
could say anything.
There should be a callback to that, but him saying that to her as his first words, is that what you're saying? Like he'll say to her, "It's like I thought you were a myth," or would be the. It could work. As you ask the question, well, first of all, my first reaction and everything is like, I don't care. Like, it's just like, I trust. I was just thinking about it. And it goes into our news. Like, I think we're accepting everything that they kind of give us now. Because it's like, it doesn't have to be approved by George Lucas anymore, like, it seems.
Well, this isn't approved. This is just about, like.
But, I know what we're thinking. So, but I don't want to answer that because that's not fun. As you were asking, though, my thoughts were it'd be cool if it was similar to Obi-Wan and Luke meeting for the first time. If there wasn't like a similarity there. I don't. What does Obi-Wan say first? Like when they meet in the Junland Waste, when like he gets attacked.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, there's
What does he say?
it'll be dark soon.
They'll be back in braids and numbers.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. I don't know if that would work, but you know what I mean. Like I feel like, I mean, Luke basically is Obi-Wan in this movie, so I feel like there should be some kind of mirror there.
Well, is he Obi-Wan or is he Yoda?
I would say Obi-Wan. I think no one can hit the level of Yoda. I feel like
they
Yoda
can't,
is like the Oracle, you know?
But is he more towards Yoda than Obi-Wan though? If to Rey and Rey's eye perspective.
No, because I get the sense that whatever's happened to Luke, he's reluctant. And I feel like Obi-Wan is a wise Jedi Master, but he's still human in the sense of like he's reluctant or whatever. Like, I mean, it's hard to say because it's like, you know, when you're introduced to Obi-Wan, he's like, well, we have to go do this. Like he has a sense of duty, but at the same no, it's like I don't know. I know what I mean. Like it's sort of like, oh, don't go. Your family is now dead. And it's like we have to go. It's like no. So it's sort of like he's flawed. I feel like I don't know. I think I've backed myself into a corner here. I don't know. I feel maybe it's just he looks like Obi-Wan because he's got a beard and he's wearing the cloak and all that and he's old and he's like a hermit. So, but I guess so was Yoda.
Yeah, but Yoda was different. Yoda started different. He ended different. There's nothing about Yoda that's similar to Obi-Wan in the original trilogies, other than being a Jedi and somewhat wise. But because Obi-Wan also comes off as like a liar too. I think.
That's why I think I'm trying to get on like the whole flawed part of it. I feel like Yoda and like Palpatine, like I've said before, they're like foils to each other, and it's like they're at a level where they don't interact. They're just there when called upon, but they don't. They're like gods where they're like, okay, let's let everyone fight it out, and like the bad god and the good god would like talk to each other, but they wouldn't like attack each other. Well, I know there's a fight between them in Revenge of the Sith, but I feel like if they were actually in a room before Palpatine's plan finally comes to fruition, they'd be like, well, I mean, I guess they were at some point, but you know what I mean? It's like Yoda would never go out of his way to stop them, just as like as Palpatine sort of lets his minions do the work, sort of thing. So that's why I feel like Yoda is just sort of, he's like a Bindu, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He's sort of like neutral, even though he takes a side. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a different way to look at Yoda. I think everyone's looking at Yoda that similarly, but now that you have the Bendu character,
right?
How do you like? Why wouldn't Yoda gravitate to that more than just being a light side? Because if he's so wise, wouldn't he pick one or the other? I think this is also part of the flaw of what they're doing with the whole with the new way of doing things.
Yeah,
it's because Yoda should be wise enough to be in the middle, but maybe he is. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
know.
But you do bring up a good point where you were talking about what you just spoke about with the gods fighting.
Yeah.
And because I said this on our Unleashed review of Empires and the Adamat book, that I was reading it, and Palpatine and the Acolytes of the Beyond, which we don't really know much about, but they worship basically the dark side, and they love the dark side, and they're the ones that get Vader's lightsaber, and a lot of people are guessing that they are the beginnings of the Knights of Ren.
Right.
These characters, and they them and Palpatine, but not Vader, hear a force, like not a force, they can hear the dark side calling to them.
Right.
They can hear them calling to them, and so I brought it up yesterday that I was thinking, and this is a two-parter here, is I thought that could be Snoke. And what I mean by that is Snoke could just be dark side.
Right.
He could just be like a dark side, not a Sith, but the dark side itself manifested in a way and I say he could be like a fallen angel. How Satan is a fallen angel.
Right.
He's like on that side. But then on this side, when I go back to Luke calling Rey a myth, it could be because she is a product of the light side.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
now you have both, and when he finds out, he's like, oh, because he exists, she has to exist.
Right.
And that's also something that another viewer, Cheetos, I believe is his
I
name.
love that name,
And he
Cheetos.
has a great avatar picture as well. But he brought up that Snoke kind of looks like a zombie, and that would be
Yes,
the
I
opposite
remember
of that.
that.
So I mean, this is a similar point as that, where he could be this fallen angel of the dark, and then she could be the light, a pure light. He could be pure dark.
Right.
And she could still have parents, like we said, like the Harry Potter thing, where she's,
Yeah.
something happens.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she's pure light, he's pure evil, and he knows that, light prevails, I guess, or so. We don't know exactly, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out because of the things that we learn and we know. But
Yeah.
I feel like the setup in Empire's End, they don't give you anything in terms of Snoke, which is what we all kind of expected.
Right.
And so everyone, you can assume this is Snoke's here or there. But and also in the Force Awakens novelization, when it says that Leia, that Snoke watched over Leia when Kylo Ren was essentially in her like as a fetus, he watched over her. But in Empire's End, they say that Leia can feel the light, but she remembers what Luke says: wherever there's great bright light, there's great darkness, and the darkness could just be Snoke, and that could be what she's talking about in regards to Snoke. So, your thoughts on?
I could accept that. I mean, funny enough, when I was reading the new Poe Dameron, there's a line that one of the characters, Adi, says. He's instead of like for the love of God, it's like for the love of the Force.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, it really is their religion. Like, it's their closest thing to religion. I feel kind of exists in the Star Wars world.
They go into that great religion and the Force, little not greatly, but there's an interlude is very much just about the Church of the Force.
So I could accept that. Like I can understand. I think the religious theme in the next movie would work. And as you were talking, I thought, like, what if the reason Luke is on Ahch-To is because he's had a vision that he has to wait for someone.
Yeah.
Like that would work. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm really psyched to know why he's there.
But I think if Rey's pure light, then that fits in with those rumors that she was the next chosen one. Because people are like, she's a reincarnated Anakin. But this is a way of kind of doing that, but not being reincarnated and not being another chosen one. She's just the light, and he is just the dark.
It just passes from person to person.
Yeah, and she is just pure light, and he is pure dark. And that's why, and I think maybe that's why he's so fascinated with Kylo, because Kylo's so conflicted in both and so powerful in both that maybe he feels Kylo has the ability to take out the light, to take out the Jedi. But now that this girl's around, all bets are off.
I would accept it. I'm not saying I don't like what you're saying, but I just feel again like I think they're gonna introduce some kind of new concept in this movie where it's like can't be just like full prophecy. It's like, oh, this is gonna happen, because it's like, okay, we have a new chosen one and they prevail, then what?
Or maybe they don't prevail.
Good point. Because there's always gonna be good and bad.
How does this trilogy end? How does this trilogy end? That's like, because you've already had your first three ends and the third one ends in darkness. Then the next three, everyone's happy. And now you've come back with us that, hey, by the way, they weren't really happy. Yeah. They weren't really happy. You think they were happy because that's what we showed you, but they're not happy. Now are we going to see them get happy? Like, I don't know if that's a satisfying. I don't know how you satisfy. I don't know how you finish this in a satisfying manner.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this movie is going to really answer that question, because, well, we have a trilogy. We have to like go somewhere with it. I mean, I think Force Awakens set a lot of things down, but it didn't. It's just like the original trilogy. Like, A New Hope was like, this is what you're looking at, and then Empire is really where they made more of a foundation of a movie, and then Return of the Jedi. So it's almost like the second and third movie are really the story, while the first one always sets the tone. I guess Phantom Menace in that sense was kind of the same. They could have just been movies by themselves, and you would have accepted it for what it was, because it was like, here's the problem, here's the resolution, and then continue it on to a new movie. I don't know. I can't wait for this movie.
Like, is it? What if, like, everyone's expecting this one to end with a cliffhanger, and we've kind of, who was it? Oh man, no, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said it did end in a cliffhanger. Oh, it was Warwick Davis. He said that it ends like Empire Strikes Back in a cliffhanger. But what if it's not a negative cliffhanger?
Yeah.
What if it's like totally positive? You're like, Rey's like, I grew an extra arm.
Or it's like they have to go somewhere and say, okay, what if it's, say Poe, his thing is he's looking for something. I feel like he's always looking for something. Mm-hmm. I only use his example because he flies an X-Wing and they can go anywhere in the galaxy pretty much by themselves, right? What if they're like, we have to go there, and then Poe ends up being the one to go there. And the end of the movie is him coming over the comms, like, you see him, he's having a conversation between, like, their main base or like a cruiser or something like that, but he's somewhere by himself, and they're talking over the communication, and it's like, I'm here, I'm entering, I don't see anything. It's like, wait, and then you see him, and you don't see what he's looking at, but it's just like, it's his eyes like, I found it. And then credits, like, that would be a positive. So like, what just happened? Was that good? Because it's what they were searching for, so they found it. It's sort of ambiguous, like, what happens? I don't know.
I like that, except for that they were just searching for Luke Skywalker.
True.
I do like it, though. That would be really cool. But
that's just like example of like something where someone's looking at something, or maybe it's a reveal. Okay, it's like maybe it's Finn talking over comm. Or no, I don't. I just like the idea. I think what I'm trying to say is like I like the idea of wait, hold on, what's that? We found it, and then credits. Like, but you kind of have to be talking to someone. I guess you could be talking to someone in the group. I don't know.
We just watch the movie.
Yeah,
let's just watch this movie.
We need a countdown clock right here.
Yeah, I thought we were getting one. We were gonna get a countdown clock.
Yeah, it's hard to get those things. 2, 1.
All right, let's go. I got my ticket. We're gonna pre-order those tickets October 15th.
For sure. We're gonna take a day off like last time. I hope they do something in Toronto like they did, even if it's something stupid like. Well, it wasn't stupid. It was just the costumes. But like.
Yeah, I would do that again. Yeah, I always take Star Wars Day off. That's my day. I take it right off. That's what Friday. I do. So in Empire's End, they also answered some questions about JAKKU.
Yes. Did you tell me what it was?
No, and I don't know if I want to say it. I planned on initially when I was putting the rundown together, I planned on talking about JAKKU because I'm like, we could talk about this, but now I'm not sure I 100% want to. It's not really a spoiler, but if you want to know, it is on the Unleashed Empire's End review. Yeah, and I feel like it might, if you're reading the book and you don't want it to be spoiled, I don't really want to get into it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I liked it. Andrew Fantasia really loved it. I thought it was cool. It's very interesting. It really gives you more perspective on Palpatine and his overall plan. And it will make you look at him somewhat differently towards the end of his existence. I will say that. Because it's fun, right? Yeah. Star Wars is fun.
Do you think JAKKU's still going to be something big? Like, maybe they don't go to JAKKU again in the movies, but like, whatever happened there? Because like, that's what we were positing earlier on in our podcast. It's like, JAKKU seems very, very important for some reason.
Yeah, they have to. I don't know. I think we're going to go back there in the next movie, but I don't know if it's because of what we've learned. I haven't. Yeah. But it might be, and what we learned might have to do with Snoke, maybe.
Right. Okay.
I can't figure out. The thing is, well, yeah, like taking away everything we've spoken about today. Yeah. It's such an unusual planet for Rey to be dropped off on. Yeah. And that's what's very questionable about is why was Rey left on of all the planets in the galaxy, JAKKU. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny that Han Solo is like that old junkyard, but in the book he's like, oh, I know that planet. Like he's one of the only ones that know. He's like, I know it. It's a dump. But then there's a giant war there, so you feel like that would actually bring attention to that planet. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna learn more. I would hope we learn more. I can't promise. Because I haven't read. Oh, Ryan Johnson called me over last night for a coffee, so I went over and he said, "Here's the script." And I said, "I don't want to ruin it."
Do you like the movie Brick? And you're like, "Yeah, totally."
I do. And he was like, "Here's the screenplay for episode the Last Jedi." This is the screenplay
for Brick 2.
If this is Brick 2, Cruise Control. It takes place on a boat. I was like, this sounds like an amazing motion picture event. But there's a lot of questions still about JAKKU. A lot of questions about Snoke, Rey, Luke. Like the other thing. Before we move on, is Luke's only been on that planet for at least 5 or for at most 5 years.
Okay.
Because in Bloodline, he's still with Ben, off training him.
Right.
And that takes place 5-6 years before. So how long has he been? He might even have been there for a month and a half. He might have been there for a week. He might have just got there right before Rey got there. It was obviously a few years, but that, because when we all saw it, we're like, oh, he's been in exile for years.
Yeah,
it's been years, but it hasn't, because Kylo didn't turn until he was in his 20s. Kylo didn't turn until the Emperor wanted Luke to turn. Right. Which is that would be a fun movie to watch too.
Like
of Ben turning.
The fall of Ben Solo.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. Ben Organa.
Ben Organa, because he's royalty. Oh God. Anyway, let's move on to this segment that we like to call Never
Tell Me
the Odds.
Boom.
What's his face likes the odds? Han Solo is a big odds maker.
Yeah.
C-3PO is not. Today's odds are brought to you by the Rebel Scum Podcast.
Rebel Scum Podcast.
We have something else we want to talk about after the thing about, which is the plot of The Last Jedi, but we'll get into that after.
Yeah.
We're going to Never Tell Me the Odds.
Yeah.
And the first odds, Brock, are the odds of Bendu being seen in The Last Jedi in Act 2.
So he's going to be
just
on a different planet?
Well,
because like he's on.
There might be more than one Bendu type.
Oh,
creature.
I'm saying. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like the creature, not
right.
Although his voice is awesome.
I want to say 75% because I want that character or a character like that in there. I feel like Acto, they're there for a reason. Well, it's a Jedi.
If the birds are there, they would, right?
Like I feel like we definitely see something. Like we're definitely gonna witness a Jedi temple at like full power, like which we only see in the shows and comics and books. Like I think that would be beneficial because I think we said early on too, it's like if they could have a place that's very strong with the Force, the light side of the Force, that could be their way of showing flashbacks or like this and that.
Which this is going to be very flashback heavy, Ryan Johnson has said.
Perfect. So there's so many whether you don't like it or not, like there's so many things we need to explain, like why this, why that, like it's worth it in the long run. And what they did in the first one, that was awesome. Do something like that again.
Yeah. Although you don't have to explain everything because we didn't get everything explained in the original trilogy from the prequels until the prequels.
And it doesn't have to be a flashback.
Oh, it could be whatever.
It could be similar. I mean, think about Luke on Dagobah. Find like the vision he has. Just call it a vision. It's not a flashback.
Which we mentioned in Scavenger Scum and how Rey's injury might be one of those.
Right.
So moving on, I'm gonna go full Brock on that one. I'm going full Brock because the thing is, I would love to see it. I want to go 110% on seeing it, and we did see that picture of that pink blob that is on the planet. Yeah. But how do you explain to the audience that doesn't watch Rebels what a Bendu is? I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be like the convoy of Force Awakens. It could just be there.
I think it's just easy. Just like this is a creature of the Force. And that's it. They're like,
okay,
we're on a holy place that like
and
to better understand, because I think there is going to be an ambiguity of what Luke is going through. I feel like he's doubting himself, and he's at a new level of new evolution of what the Jedi is. Actually, I was realizing in the crawl in Force Awakens, and this is not a huge like revelation, but they actually say the last Jedi is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I know.
So when that was said, I was like, he is currently the only Jedi.
Yeah, and this is the problem is now that the foreign language interpretations say that there's multiple Jedi, but I also have to say, and we mentioned this on something else too, but like, is that also lost in translation? Is it just like, hey, by the way, we're just gonna call it a bunch of Jedis? Like maybe there's no singular.
What is a group of Jedi?
Like, has anyone? And
is this a snazzle?
But I haven't looked at. I should have before I say this, but I haven't looked at what's Return of the Jedi called in those countries. Is
that's
it called Return of the Many Jedi? That's a
very good question.
So we have to look at that because I do believe that Luke is the last Jedi. And the thing is, even if Jedi is plural, it doesn't matter because Jedi is just a word. It's a made-up word, and Luke is the last of this kind of this whole thing. So you could say he's the last of the Jedis.
But this is how I looked at it: Last Jedi. It's just a title. I mean, I said since it's been announced, it's like I love it. It's so ambiguous. We do not know what we're all assuming is like this is the end of the Jedi. But what if it's like they don't call him Luke Skywalker? They just call him the Last Jedi.
And what if this is? What
And it's like this is the story of the Last Jedi, but it's not saying.
No, that's what I think it is. Yeah.
No, yeah.
I don't think this title has anything to do with his death, like a bunch of people do. I think it is about the Last Jedi because, like you say, in the crawl, he's called the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I believe Snoke in the movie calls him, or does he call him the Last Jedi? Or in the book he does. Somewhere he says the Last Jedi. Yeah. So he's referred to as the Last Jedi. Yeah. He's the Last Jedi, and this is about him. This is his story now. We had the lead up to the Last Jedi.
It's just a title like in Mad Max or the Road Warrior when he's Outlander. It's like Outlander. It's just a title. It really doesn't mean that he's just like, yes, this is what you are. Like, oh, well, it doesn't mean what you call me defines me. It's really poetic when you think about it.
Max. I love Mad Max. Okay, I'm going to stick with 50-50 on this. Next one.
Yeah.
The odds of Rey sacrificing herself. Is this how you end?
I know I read this, but I don't know why I don't know the number in my head. Sacrificing herself.
And that's how the trilogy ends, perhaps. I don't know.
Like, oh, you're saying in the ninth.
8 or 9, whatever. She could sacrifice herself for the greater good. That's the ultimate end to a hero's journey.
I want to say 30% because this is more of a marketing political sort of thing. I feel like the character of Rey and Daisy Ridley as a whole, they just want to incorporate the female character. Even though if she did, I would accept it. I think they would be like, no, don't kill off that character. We want to do stuff with her in the future. Like, even if it's not as grand in this saga. Great, because, of course, actors don't want to do the same characters over and over again. So that's I hate when I bring this up, but it's like, you got to remember, like, these are actual people that don't, they love it because they know Star Wars. It's a no-brainer. But at the same note, it's like, well, I don't like Harrison Ford's not a huge fan of being in Star Wars.
No, they got him to kill him off.
He understands why people like it, but he's never been. And it's the same with Carrie Fisher. I think Mark Hamill embraces it, but so I feel based on a specific logical, not a story thing. I think it's gonna be. She'll put herself in danger for sure, but I don't. But if it does end up where she sacrifices herself and maybe that returns Ben to the light side, great. I am not against it. I'm just my feeling. Your thoughts?
60%.
Interesting.
I think that they had a plan from beginning to end with these characters.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think that that stuff is going to interfere with that at all.
Right,
and I think,
right.
And if they want a strong female character,
yeah,
and she sacrifices herself, she's the ultimate strong female character.
Good point, I guess.
That's just one way of looking at it. But I only think 60%. I don't think it's going to happen for sure because I would like to see it move on forward.
Yeah,
But I don't know how it's going to end. And if Snoke is from the dark and she's from the light, how do you end it? They have to
right.
They have to destroy each other essentially. If there's darkness, there's light. If there's light, there's darkness. You have to get rid of one for the other.
Right.
All right, our last odd. The odds of the next Star Wars animated series focusing on Mandalore and Sabine searching for its leader.
I want to say 75%.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I want it to happen. I think they're really understanding that Mandalorians are interesting for the fans.
Yeah.
And God, they're just like toy machines, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, it's kind of cool because you think, like, looking at it now from what they've created with Clone Wars and Rebels, when you think Mandalorian, you think Boba Fett right off the bat. But they're not their armor differs.
Well, now Boba Fett's not Mandalorian anymore.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? Like, yeah, I understand that, but like the Night Watch, they're set, like, it's the same type of of like equipment costume. But like the helmets are slightly different, even Sabine's helmet's slightly different, but you're like, that's Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think there's a lot like that alone. Like, look at how many toys you could put out just with that. Yeah, I think so.
That's when, as soon as, if you haven't seen Rebels, I'm sorry for the spoiler, but as soon as she went back to Mandalore and decided to stay there, I text you right away. I'm like, oh, I think this is I think they've just decided on their next show. I could be completely wrong. They might have a different thing in mind, but
True.
But Sabine, I think people are drawn to Sabine and that character now. I think a lot of people's favorite character is Sabine.
Yeah.
And she's the one that's easiest to tell more stories of from that group, because Kanan can't be a Jedi when Luke's around, because Luke is not a Jedi.
Yeah.
Ezra might move on to the movies. We don't know.
Right.
But in what capacity?
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So and if he's going to move on to the movies, then you're limited in the stories you can tell after Rebels run. Zeb can't maintain a show on his own.
No,
he's not a leader. Chopper's not a leader, obviously.
No.
Hera could.
Yeah.
Hera definitely could. But I think she's gonna go. She goes to battle on Scarif, right, and the Ghost.
Yeah.
And maybe she dies on Scarif, or maybe her story continues somewhere else. But the thing is, I just think the amount of time it takes to make a show and come up with a show, they've got another year or two left on Rebels. That gives them, now they've moved on to this one, and they're already in production on it. That's what I think. That's what I would say. So I'm going with you on 75%. All right, let's move on to the HOLO news.
HOLO news. Live from Coruscant.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let me open my bag of tricks. That's not what I wanted.
I can't find what I want either. It was a slow week in Star Wars news.
Some cool stuff. Oh, yes.
But a fun week for sure.
Well, I'll start and you'll get the graphic in a second. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So this I referenced this earlier today in this episode. J.J. Abrams approves of the Han Solo script. He thinks it's great.
I'm shocked.
Shocked in what way?
No way. I mean, it's good that he came out and said that.
But this is what I was kind of referring to. It's sort of like, we're not far away from Rogue One, we did a story where George Lucas approved of it because he got to see it first.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's interesting. J.J. Abrams, amazing director, amazing writer. So his opinion does matter. But it's interesting that now J.J. Abrams has a say. If that's like, I think most fans are like, oh, great. So it's funny when you hear someone say, I don't really like Force Awakens, but like a lot of people accept J.J. Abrams as now like.
Do you find it funny the hate that Force Awakens is getting now?
I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's a great movie. Besides the plot hole of, what was it again? What's the plot hole in Force Awakens?
Her mind trick?
Yeah, learning the mind trick, which is like whatever. How did she learn the mind trick? I don't know. So yeah, he approves of it. He was floored. He was floored that we now live in a world where we're getting a Han Solo movie. So that was really cool.
I love that.
So that's great. I mean, we haven't seen any footage or anything. We just know who the cast is more or less, and we barely know what each cast member is. But I think this movie is gonna be a knock out of the park for sure.
And the cast looks great though.
And going back to the strong female character, it's been announced that the creation of Rey action figures has changed how toys work in general. They've never had a female character action figure that was, I guess, outside of like Barbie, but that's kind of a different type of toy. But in this kind of collectible action figure, been so successful. Like, Rey is the most popular collectible outside of Kylo Ren, of course. But it's a huge change. And then, of course, right after that, Jyn Erso. So it's really neat that like it's been the most popular in the last 20 years of action figures. So that's pretty crazy. So was that it? There was something more. I mean, it's not all.
Well,
like,
it started with they didn't even make like the Rey figure was impossible to find.
Yeah.
For so long, which I got the Monopoly set.
That's right. Yeah, I remember
Force
that.
Friday. Erin bought it for me, of course.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't approve of me buying stuff, so she buys it for me. And then and I noticed that it was Luke, Vader, Kylo, and Finn.
Yeah.
And I said, "This is."
What about the female
The first thing I said was, "This is weird that there's no female," because you knew that it was going to come out. Why isn't there female? And then when it was coming out, and then I started to feel like I was getting the feeling in reading that Rey might be a Jedi or Force sensitive. I was like, well, that they're hiding Rey from us because there was no Rey anywhere.
Yeah,
like they're hiding Rey from us. But why isn't Leia in this set?
Yeah, exactly.
Why isn't it Leia?
It's weird because it's like Star Wars was one of the first like spots where it's like, here's a female character you can follow.
And even if you want to say, if they wanted to argue, well, we were trying to do original trilogy and new trilogy, so Kylo, Darth, Luke, Finn, and they're promoting Finn as the next Luke. But you could still throw Rey in there with a staff. Like, because Finn just had a blaster. It's not like they put the lightsaber on him. They give him a blaster, which even makes less sense than him having a lightsaber because he uses a lightsaber more. So that's what it is. But what are you gonna do? Look, marketing shows though. Yeah. The truth is that the male toys do sell better. The male figures.
True.
Until now.
But now, like, now
it's changed.
That's what we're saying is like girls are just as interested in Star Wars as boys are,
and which is awesome.
Or in our case, men and women.
Don't take it out of the box.
That's really cool. I mean, it's gonna make a huge change on how they market these things.
Yeah.
And in space news, one of the planets that they discovered recently, like last week, they announced they found 6 or 7 planets in another galaxy that are similar to our Earth. One is Tatooine, like
I thought that was the actual
very
name
deserty and rocky. And they're just able to, I can't remember. It doesn't have like 2 suns and 3-4 moons or anything like that, but it's very similar. And with I think there was something else kind of cool in this, but yeah, so there is a Tatooine possibly. Knowing what they can see and judging on, I don't know if they have samples or anything like that. It's too far away for that because I think they're just looking through a telescope at this, right? But it's
what if they looked and they saw like a Bigfoot creature walk?
A seemingly rocky debris orbiting 2 stars. The debris appears to be rocky and suggests that terrestrial planets like Tatooine might exist in the system, says the rep. So that's cool.
Do you think the rest, like all these uncharted planets and regions of space, are like the Star Wars universe where Earth is like all different climates, but in Star Wars, each planet is their own? Do you think that's how the rest of the galaxy is?
They'll be like, Star Wars was right the whole time, and George Lucas was like, I told you.
I've been to the future.
But like, imagine that, and then you could go there one day and stand on a sand dune and like kick the sand dune, and then 2 suns are setting in the front. Like,
well, start saving.
Oh, God.
Start saving up. What's our next?
Go to a trip and never come back because it's way too far away.
Seriously.
That's not what I want.
It's our final news story now. It's a nice one. This is a good one to end it on.
Yes. Carrie Fisher was honored at the Oscars last Sunday in the memorial reel. And she got sort of a special spot, I believe. I didn't see it. From reading it, I believe she was at the end of the reel. And they ended with her saying with her last line in Force Awakens, "May the Force be with you." So that's kind of cool because usually with those, it's like here's the actor, here's their name, and here's some like silent footage in the background or just a picture. So that they gave her a little extra. But in typical Star Wars fan reaction,
# bring back Teak.
Bring back Teak. People kind of got a little mad because apparently in 2010, Carrie Fisher, being Carrie Fisher, was in an interview, and I guess how would she like to be remembered if she were to pass? I don't know if the question was exactly like that, but she said, when they do this reel, I want Harrison to come out and sing a song and it was like some joke. It was like some like set. It was a Star Wars joke song or whatever like that. And then of course Harrison Ford did not come out and do that. And people on Twitter was like, "What? Gee, why did this? This is outrageous!" Like, come on, guys. I mean, it's cool, and who knows? Maybe we'll get it at Celebration because there is going to be a memorial for her, I believe. Yes. Right? Is that still happening?
The other thing too is the Oscars aren't just about Carrie Fisher, and also I'm willing to bet that the producers of the Oscars that put together the in memoriam segment had no idea she even said that. Exactly. Everything else.
Like, how are we supposed to know that?
Like she spoke. That's the only time. You never really get that.
Yeah, exactly. So they gave her a special thing, but like, come on, it's the Oscars. It's not just about Star Wars. Let's relax. Like, And maybe Harrison Ford doesn't want to do that. And maybe it was just a joke. So,
I was definitely.
but it was cool to remember. I'm sure, like, there's no question. I didn't even think of it. I didn't watch the Oscars, so I didn't even think, oh, maybe they'll put her in there.
No, I wouldn't even question. Okay, so that's all for
it
the
for all
HOLO
news.
news. So now we want to move on. We said before we had one more thing we wanted to talk about. We want to get to it after the news. That it was Making Star Wars, I believe. .net, I believe,
what was
posted this.
It made me angry.
This somewhat synopsis of
Yes.
of what The Last Jedi could be. So if you don't want to hear it, just fast forward to when you see the episode. When you see the books and comics graphic come up, you can skip to us.
Books and comics.
For Snoke, and this is a direct quote from the website. For Snoke, the loss of the Starkiller base was as significant as his wins. His forces are no longer a secret to the galaxy at large. Those who used to laugh at the idea, of the First Order those of that used to laugh at the idea that the First Order were a threat are either dead or no longer laughing. The Cold War style standoff is publicly over after the full-on assault on the Republic and the Senate. The galaxy no longer views Snoke as someone that is irrelevant on the galactic stage. The galaxy knows he and his cronies are maniacal zealots, and they should be feared for better or worse. I also read off of a Cabot. The galaxy seems to mostly understand that the First Order is eventually coming to conquer their worlds, and they have to fall in line or resist. Most understand that the war has returned and the perceived era of peace is over. And then it goes on to say that Snoke understands that everything the First Order used to do in secret is no longer an option.
Yeah.
And very overt war is on the horizon. Unfortunately, the Republic has completely collapsed after being attacked in Star Wars The Force Awakens by Starkiller Base. The galaxy is in the complete disarray. The galaxy understands that everyone has to pick a side now. General Organa no longer stands alone in her determination that the First Order is the greatest threat to freedom and democracy in the galaxy, and the only choice they have left is to fight. Now, whether or not this is fake, it doesn't matter, because it seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, when I read it, I was sort of like, does the movie say that? But yeah, I mean, nobody knew about Death Killer Base, Murder Planet. And they were surprised by what it could do when it blew up Hosnian Prime. Though having read Bloodline, I understood the value. Like it's like even though the First Order doesn't really exist, they are working on it and they're keeping it hidden.
It doesn't say anything about Teak.
It does not. What is wrong with you? But yeah, I just sort of like, this isn't anything new, but like kind of made it like, oh, blah, 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 this and that. I mean, well, he's like, Snoke is still the villain. Kylo Ren is still the villain. Hux and all that. Like, they're not gone. I mean, we don't see Hux and Kylo leave the Murder Planet, but.
I love Murder Planet.
But we just, we know Adam Driver's in the next movie. So. Like, we know they're going to come back at it. And it's kind of interesting because it's sort of, well, now I want to know more because it's like Hosnian Prime is where the New Republic is. But, like, it could be widespread. But it's like if you blew up Washington or Ottawa, yeah, that'd be crazy. You're like, oh, God, what do we do now? But, you'd still technically have a system to an extent. But then, losing Murder Planet, would that not be a huge hit to the Force? To the Force, to the First Order.
First Order.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, this move they made, they're like, well, now we have to fight. So that's a foregone conclusion. So I don't know. I know making Star Wars has these things. There's just something about the way they report this stuff. I just don't believe it. Or I just sort of like, I don't care. Like,
I just feel this one was one of those things that came out and it was a big thing, and we're all like, oh, now we're learning about the movie. But this, to me, when I read it, was well, this is what I thought the movie was about.
Doesn't really reveal anything, I guess.
It does say that Snoke is Han Solo.
What?
Right there. Snoke is Teak.
Snoke is Teak.
Yeah, no, it's nothing new, but it is. I mean, But the one thing that I really liked about it though was it showed that there is Bob Iger saw it at Disney. There is a cut of this movie. This movie does exist. There is a storyline. People know this storyline. It's becoming a thing. It's more, and we're going to get the trailer whether it's Celebration or not. I think it's going to be there.
Yeah,
I think it's actually going to be April 13th, Thursday, the 40th celebration. I think this is what I think is going to happen for this trailer now. Is they're going to show a reel of all Star Wars, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and then the sequel trilogy, and you'll get Force Awakens, and then it's just gonna and then it's gonna fade and come up on Last Jedi stuff. That's what I think they're gonna pull out of their Mickey Mouse trousers.
Well, that weekend is Easter.
Yes.
Does the States have any like football games on Easter weekend or a parade?
Football is between September to
that's right.
February. So.
Well, March Madness will be way over. But like, you know what? The reason I ask is football is not the right thing to say, but like they showed Force Awakens during that one football game. They showed Rogue One.
No, there's nothing big going on
during the Olympics.
It would be baseball.
True.
It could be basketball. They won't.
It is home opening weekend though.
They won't,
more or less.
They won't do it during. Yeah, but it's home opening in Toronto. Not everywhere else starts early April. I think no.
Yeah, I don't. Well,
so. No, I don't think they're going to pull anything off unless it was a World Series.
You know what I mean? Like if they had a Easter parade or something.
Yeah, but this is, don't forget, also everyone's expecting something big from this. This is just the first glimpse. The big trailer's not coming until,
exactly.
Because the football thing was in October, which was 2 months before the movie.
October?
Side October part? But that's what I think they're going to do. I think that would be really cool for a 40th anniversary. You show everything and then you show that, and you could even squeeze in some Han Solo. Which
that would be acceptable. It kind of would make me mad if you've totally figured out what it was, because I want to be completely surprised, right? I think I will be, but like,
I don't. Well, I mean, if I figured that out, it might be too obvious.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your favorite section of the show.
Books and or
I went back to us. Look at that.
Hey.
It's a touchscreen, guys. It's a touchscreen. Don't judge me. I'm sorry.
Screen.
We have to get Daryl back in here. Okay, so books or comics. So I'm going to let Brock take this because I just did the review of Empire's End with Andrew Fantasia, which you can watch on the Unleashed video on this channel. So Brock.
Everybody's favorite X-Wing pilot is back. Poe Dameron, issue number 11, and he is still running from Agent Terex. So when we last left them, he had gone to that planet where they picked up a droid that had information about the First Order. So they have the droid, but he said he won't reveal anything until he brings them to the the Resistance head office. So he'd be safe, because he didn't want to give up the information then to be destroyed. But then Agent Terex has gone cuckoo bananas and now is taking on his role as general of the ranks, which is sort of like a bounty hunter group. But it's cool because they're like, well, we got to go get Terex, or we have to go get Poe Dameron because of this. He's set on getting Poe Dameron because he's been like thwarted by him twice. And there's a cool back and forth between him and Phasma, and it's kind of neat because it's saying. It's like, I'm gonna do what you and Hux and Kylo Ren can't do. I'm gonna find Poe, or they're tracking him. He's gonna bring us to where the Resistance, and I'm gonna take him out. And he has this whole squad or fleet of ships. You can see kind of there of just like their ships he's created from like old parts of like stuff from JAKKU. So like
sweet.
There's like a TIE fighter that's also like the body of AT-8 ATST. I think it's further in here. So it's kind of cool. He's created his own like. That's why he's in this costume where it's all like stormtrooper.
Yeah, I was gonna say
armor
it looks
and
like
stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is the guy that had the office with like the Scarif trooper helmet.
Yeah,
like.
okay, yeah.
And meanwhile, Audie, who I thought was Elo Asti, who is their tech, has snuck onto their ship, so he's there. And one reveal with him was apparently this group has his wife. So I don't know. That's a new storyline. But Poe is running in his X-Wing, and it's cool because as you can see here, James, he's got 2 pods on the side of the X-Wing for C-3PO to be in one, and this new droid. Oh, and it's an old battle droid.
Right? Oh, that's awesome.
So they're stored. I can't see if I can find it. This is so exciting for the people watching. Right there, like they're on the side. They're stored in the thing.
You gotta put it up to the.
Yeah, so
Come this way. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The
So
glare.
it's kind of neat. So he's talking to him, and he's talking to this droid that has an information. And he's like, oh wait, they're following me, aren't they? And so they come out. He comes out of hyperspace, and there they all are. So now the book ends with him trying to run away, and then he crashes on a planet, and that was it. It just sort of he crashes, and you don't know what happens after that. So it's very cool art by is it Greg Nato? Phil Nato. His stuff is just great. Charles Soule. It's great story and stuff. I love it. Poe Dameron. Don't take my word for it.
Is Poe Dameron your favorite of the Star Wars comics right now?
Yeah. Star Wars, like the ongoing one, is good. It's kind of in a lull now because they're doing this like 3-issue Yoda thing.
Oh.
Which is good, but it's kind of like a lot of people aren't really liking it that much. But where they were going prior to that with the the Scar Troopers and the Scar Squad,
Yeah.
and they have C-3PO and stuff like that, and R2 takes the next wing, and it was like, oh yes, more of this. So it's kind of a letdown. The Yoda stuff is good. And again, the artwork is good in that as well. But it's sort of like because he's on this planet where there's children fighting something. I don't know. But yeah, so it's kind of neat.
That's cool.
Books and comics.
I want to pick up Poe Dameron if they ever release it in the trade.
They should have a couple by now because it's issue 11, right?
So that'd be 2 trades?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it is, I'll check it out because that's
2
how
trades?
with the exception of Darth Maul, that's how I do things. I almost stopped recording instead of doing this.
Oh, God.
It's time for top 5.
Show me your top 5.
Is it time for top 5 already?
Top 5.
I feel like we just started
top
this.
5. Oh, this is the one I needed to write things down.
This one,
Top 5. Yeah.
If you give me 1 second here. Brock, do you want to start with our top 5? Our top 5.
Top 5 Old Republic characters. Oh, I didn't get the thing out. So let me.
You have a thing?
I have the
Oh,
actual games.
I'll stay on the screen for a while.
So, for those of you who don't know, Old Republic was a really cool game series, and it still technically exists, I believe. I only played it on Xbox, but this is where we get characters like Darth Revan and Darth
to it so
Malak.
we can see what you're doing. By the way, this was selected by Shauner92.
Oh, yes.
Shauner92, thanks for watching,
Yeah.
thanks for commenting, and thanks for bringing up the Old Republic.
I tried replaying these games, and it doesn't really age well. I know that might be controversial.
Most games don't, though.
But I can't, I really can't force myself to sell it. Just because these were fantastic games.
Yeah.
This is 1 and this is 2.
Do you have 3?
There is, there's a 3, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It was awesome. It's, you know what, these games were like the first, like, oh, let's give the fans what they want.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a Wookiee, and then you fight Rancors, and you can be a Jedi and all that jazz. Really, really compelling stories, and it's like, I think a lot of fans recognize that, so they want, like, let's make a Netflix show. So, top 5 characters.
And that is getting huge, but like the signatures on that are crazy. Anyway, top 5 characters. Brock, who's your number 5?
Oh, God, I should write the names down. I did think of this.
My number 5 is Darth Nihilus.
Yeah, I had the list of names. Go. So explain.
I'm just saying with number 5. I just think, just visually, he is very. Yeah. I mean, when they did Darth Maul, George Lucas said, "Pick something from your worst nightmares," and Nihilus looks like something from my worst nightmares. So I'm going with him, number 5, and I'd like to see him show up sometime. I think we're going to get something from the Old Republic. I think it's coming soon. I'm going to mention that more on my number 4. Who's your number 5?
I liked Kreia from the second one.
Oh, nice.
Because she was like a Jedi, like a fallen Jedi to an extent. She was blind and all that. But like in the second one, I mean, both were like this. You could go evil or good in it. In the second one, your choice to go evil really affected your characters, like visually as well as character-wise. And she is like, she's on that cusp of like, she'll flip to either side. She was kind of like, she's similar to like an Obi-Wan, but she could go evil really quickly, like her. So she was always really cool. And it's, you know, there's something cool about an old lady that can jump around and do Jedi stuff.
Oh, like Rey.
But Rey's not old.
Number 4? Yet. She's not old yet.
Number 4 for me was HK-47.
Oh, wait. That's my number 4.
Nice.
High five on that one. That was the worst high five. Sorry.
Just we've said it before, like Triple Zero and Dr. Aphra, and there was another character. It's just the idea of a bounty hunter evil droid is just always interesting. I don't know why, and it was a different design of a droid too. So it's sort of like, because it's Old Republic, so it's years and years before all this. Like, the Jedi Council doesn't really exist as it does in the current sort of thing. They're actually, I think on the first one, they're on Onderon, and I'm like, oh, or no, sorry, not Onderon, Dantooine. They're like, oh. Right? So it's cool. Say, what are your thoughts?
Mine's the same. And also for Empire's End, that's who Mr. Bones, the B1 battle droid, Chuck Wendig wanted to make him HK-47, and Lucasfilm said, nope. You gotta make him your own, so he made him Mr. Bones, which tells me that they have plans for HK-47 somewhere down the line.
Speaking of Chuck Wendig, Side Akbar, I was organizing my comics and I was looking at The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
He wrote those ones. I'm like, why would you waste your time? Because it's just basically the script.
Probably his deal. It's probably, we'll let you write a book, but you gotta write this comic based on this way.
Like it has its merits, but it is what it is.
Hey, why do you go to work Monday to Friday?
Good point.
That's how we do. Okay, who's your number 3?
Number 3, Bastila.
Oh,
should be higher, but like, I think she needs to be in the top 3. It was an interesting character because, she sort of doesn't. She's more like an Obi-Wan, where she doesn't tell you all the information because the reveal. Should we do the reveal? No, we'll go. I'm sure we'll mention the character. But she was cool. She had a yellow lightsaber, which is so non-canon now. But it was interesting because, again, like, your characters, by the choices you make in the game, would be affected by, like, they would become, she'd easily lean toward evil. And I always like the game because it's like the endings are all dependent on what you decide, and it's replayable, so that's great. But yeah, she was she was a Jedi. At the time, we don't have a ton of Jedi characters. It's even, I think this was prior to the prequel stuff. Because
I think it was.
Because I think what they would be stormtroopers in this one, look, they're totally different from anything. And I think in the newer Knights of the Old Republic, those kind of look like the clone troopers.
But the clone troopers were based off of Jango.
No, I know that, but like, the design, and they just reuse the same design.
I love the evolution of stormtroopers from the clone to the stormtrooper.
Oh yeah,
that's so awesome. My number 3 is Darth Malak.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I like Malak and Revan.
Yeah,
bros before bros.
And then it continues the theme of when you're evil, your body breaks down, and it's just like.
But that was kind of.
I have a turtleneck.
Yeah, he looks awesome. Side Akbar. I was doing laundry one day. I live in an apartment building, and I was doing laundry, and I was just like folding the clothes, blah blah blah. And I'm walking, and people leave books there when they're done books.
Yeah.
And there was an Old Republic book there.
Nice.
And I was
nice.
And I took it, and then there was like another book. I'm like, hey, this one was free.
Yeah.
And it was Malak on the cover. Anyway, who's your number 2?
Number 2, Darth Revan. Very cool villain. The spoiler is you are Darth Revan, your character, because there was a battle between the Jedi of the time. So I think it's specifically Bastila, Revan, and Malak. And throughout the thing, you see flashbacks of what happened. But it's not till the conclusion that you discover that you are Revan. You got amnesia, and the Jedi decided to make you part of their thing. And that's why you're with Bastila the whole time. She's making sure you don't get screwy. And then Malak is your main villain, even though they're supposed to be like. And that's another thing about this, like the Sith, the stuff, the way they create the Sith in this is like so out of like. I guess they could still accept it, but it's like there's a lot of talk of like how the Sith work in this, and that totally lost in the movies, I guess.
But what you would do though is you would go back and retcon it.
Exactly.
This is how it actually is, and so that's all you have to do. Everything is such an easy rewrite to do anything.
Yeah,
you've seen Total Recall with Schwarzenegger and Total Recall with Colin Farrell, and one of them is good.
Well, who is it?
Revan's also my number 2.
Frida Nad's like in this area. I don't think he's in the game. I can't remember. Then you know what? In like the newer versions of this game, there's probably tons of new stuff. Yeah. You're number 2.
Revan also.
Oh, perfect.
I love Revan. I think Kylo Ren is an iteration of Revan. I believe he is of the same, cut from the same cloth. Yeah. I think that's how it's going to turn out. I could be completely wrong, and maybe I am, but his mask is very similar.
Yeah.
They did do that. Who's your number 1? Wait.
Number 1.
We have the same number 1.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Number 1, just to be a pain in the ass.
Mace Windu.
Oh! It's Yoda. He's in there. He counts.
I was against choosing Yoda, and then you were like, nope. And I was like, well, you can't choose against Yoda. Now we're going to get hate.
Yeah. But there's a lot of characters in it. It's hard to narrow it down. And another reason I can't remember all the names without looking them up. Like the Twi'lek pilot, the blue girl, she was cool. Like, and then the Wookiees, because I think there's one in each one, I believe. And then there's a dude, a Dathomir. So it must have been when Phantom Menace came out. Because it
was right after.
Yeah.
It was right after.
Because they had a Dathomir in there with the spikes.
I'm going to go, you know what, honorable mention for a T3 M4. I love my astromech droids. Huge astromech. He was on my list, and then I had to bump him for Yoda.
There's a lot, you know what it is? Like they made the game, and they put in some new stuff, but they kept with the archetypes. Like there's a Han Solo character. There's old Jedi character.
That's what you do. Yeah. That's what sells. I think, I think once... they get this trilogy going, and now that we know more about JAKKU, this Old Republic stuff they're going to get into, but I think it's going to be even on a larger scale than what we know.
Right.
I think there's going to be more going on, and they're still working that out, because what they do there is the basis for everything to follow. So they need that needs to be pinpointed perfectly, and I think they're on the right track. So that is our top five Old Republic characters. Thank you, Shadow Knight 2. That's our show.
That's our show for another week.
Another week, episode 31. 31 weeks we've been doing this. It's been a long, fun time.
Episode 31.
But thank you all so much for tagging along with us over the last little while.
Yeah.
And we wanted to bring up, we have some new shows on the channel.
Yes.
We've had Scavenger Scum for a couple of weeks now, which is news and rumors gets brought up on there. And then you guys, and that's a great time for you guys to comment there too. And then we have stuff to talk about on the show.
And if you need your weekly fix of Erin, that's where she'll be.
That's where she's going to be. Also starting this Monday, March 6th, we have at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, I think it goes up, is the Vote of No Confidence.
Yep.
Where Andrew is going to break down some rumors and characters and find out what works best.
Right.
What's the deal? And then we also have Unleashed. The new random show that popped up that everybody's watching is Unleashed, where we discuss canon and how it affects the feature films.
Yeah.
And that's what Unleashed is.
And we'll also be preparing my new podcast, Brock to the Future, where I talk about Back to the Future.
Can you seriously do that?
Yes. No. We're trying to keep it Star Wars.
No, we need to do Brock to the Future.
Brock to the Future. I know a lot of people that love that movie.
Oh my God.
I actually have an argument ongoing with my friend Christina that Star Wars is a far superior original trilogy to the trilogy of Back to the Future. She loves Back to the Future, and I'm going to punch her in the face now.
I do agree with you, but I also don't know how you compare the two.
Yeah, they're just so different.
That's like, you know what? I really hate steak, but I love pie. What?
What if it's steak and kidney pie? Whoa!
Oh, mind blown.
And you basically have Star Trek. That's not true.
Star Trek Beyond, underrated. I'm James. You follow me on Petsafina. This is
Brock Smink at BF Smink.
That's our show for this week. May the Force be with you.
Always. What will you become?
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.